And we are live. Wow. You warmed up that heck out of that neck. There it is. There it is. There it is. It is Thursday. We are at this temporary 2:30 time slot. It is the Joe and BDD show. I am Joe Carducci. As always, I'm joined by my dear friend, Majid Patelin, also known as Brooklyn Dad Defiant. We've got Sam backstage. We've got a special guest today. It's like Christmas morning. Hi, Majid. How you doing?
I am cool and groovy. I'm doing my thing, and I'll just briefly say, for the sake of the audience and for time constraints, I did have a visit from a termite company today because I was concernicus that the previous owner had termites, and I wanted to make sure he didn't have it. And my spidey sense went up when I felt like this guy, instead of showing me proof of the existence of termites, he didn't show me wings or poop or dead bodies. Instead, he's just saying, these termites, these subterranean things, they could be anywhere and everywhere. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah. Show me the money. Show me the proof.
Yeah. So I am not one who makes decisions based off of fear. I want proof. I want evidence.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because Donald J. for Genius Trump himself is expecting all of us to go along with an ever-changing narrative as it pertains to this now day. What are we at here? 87? I don't even know. We're 10 weeks into this thing. Maybe it's not 87. It's more than 60. That much I know for a fact. And it's not as long as the Vietnam War, which everyone knows when you're comparing a war to another war, the one you want to pick is Vietnam, the one that he draft dodged
5 deferments.
That's right. But yeah, he's this ever moving explanation, justification for a war that it wasn't a ceasefire, that wasn't a war, that wasn't a ceasefire, that was about reopening the Strait of Hormuz, that was open before the war, that wasn't a war, that was an excursion, and yesterday he called it a skirmish. It's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Every time he invokes the Vietnam War or other wars, saying, these guys had much longer on the wars, it sounds like he's complaining that he hasn't had enough time to prosecute this war, that he wants to have years and years. It's just a bad look and a bad sound, I think.
Especially considering the fact that we've been told over and over and over again that we won this war. In fact,
8 weeks ago,
remember, we won it on day one. We won it bigly. Believe me, right? We've wiped out their navies on the bottom of the ocean. They have he's telling us that, and in the same breath, he'll say that, very highly strategic technological missiles have been lobbed our way, but we were also being told that they have no capabilities anymore. And Marco Rubio's up there saying this is all about opening the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it is, and it's that war. It's not a war. I can't say it's a war. I don't say it's a war. I say it's an excursion, or I say it's a military exercise, or I say it's a skirmish, as if we're all stupid and we're born yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily we have our phone a friend here this week. We are lucky to be joined by someone who has some answers to all of this stuff, someone who's on TV, on the news, on MS Now and at CNN all the time, talking about very smart, very educated, someone who has a book out now. We're going to talk about that, but we are joined by our good friend Joel Rubin. Let's bring in Joel so we can ask these questions of our phone a friend who's very smart and understands these things. Hi, Joel.
Can you hear us, buddy?
I don't hear you guys.
Oh, that's no good.
Oh no.
Well, yeah.
We'll do the rest in sign language.
Can you pantomime?
Oh no.
I can't. I wouldn't even.
Here, Joel, just leave and
Why
come
do
back.
I not hear you guys?
So, Sam, take Joel
Go
off.
out and then come back. There we go. He
He
got that, right?
Yeah.
That's the sign language for go out. Go out.
Yeah.
And come back.
Yes. Technology,
That's not
friends.
that.
A bunch
That's
of
not
Gen
it.
Xers dealing with technology. It is always an adventure. Adventures in computing. But Joel's been around. Joel has worked for the State Department. He has a very fancy title. I
I always
always
botch it.
bungle every
It's
time.
long.
It's so long.
Yeah,
It's so long. Sam,
that's what
maybe
she
you can
said.
put it in the chat. Oh, yeah. Yes. And right, not about Donald Trump though. But like we were saying, Joel will be back. Joel really is an expert in all of this stuff, and when it comes to that region in particular, and he's also not someone who's prone to histrionics or hyperbole. Like he tells it like it is. And he's going to give us a little bit of insight into what's really going on over there because it just constantly shifting, and he's back. Can you hear
Hey,
us? Hi.
Can you hear us now?
I love your voices. Yes.
Am I
Thanks,
coming in
guys. Sorry
clear?
about that.
Okay, Joel, can you for Brooklyn and I and anybody else who is challenged in this way, because I'm infamous for this, can you tell the friends in the chat and everybody
Title.
watching what your title was? Because we are going to fuck it up and I don't want to do that.
The gobbledygook of the acronyms of American government, but it was Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, and
Oh,
that
that's not
basically
that long.
means it was a DAS. That's what we call it, a DAS. So it was a great job. I was in charge of our work for the State Department with the House of Representatives, so it was legislative affairs work. But I've also worked in other spots. But I was a DAS.
Okay, got it.
He
So
is das
while you were
Assistant
Das
Secretary of
Rubin.
State.
Yes.
Das ist
I
gut.
had my name on a door with the DAS.
That is important. No, and seriously, like while you were gone, I was talking about you in this regard, but also, just how much expertise you bring to this conversation and how you are not one who is prone to histrionics. You keep it very level, you keep it very real. So what is going on? Because Marco Rubio is over there and on the White House press briefing room saying that this is kind of all about reopening the Strait of Hormuz now. Donald Trump's calling it a skirmish. We are
Wait, isn't
past
Marco
the war
DJing
powers
right now?
thing. What's that?
Isn't Marco DJing right now?
He's
He
DJing.
is with the Pope. He's in the
Yeah.
Vatican right now.
He
You
looks very
know.
humbled by that. Because remember when he used to tweet Psalms every day and then he
Oh,
started working for
yeah.
Satan?
Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. So
Where are
what is your
we?
assessment of where we are right now and what's going on?
You know, Joe, we are in I would say technically the schizophrenic stage
Oh,
of American foreign policy towards Iran.
oh, good. Is that all?
I'm not prone to histrionics. I'm a
Yeah.
straight shooter.
You love to hear it. Yeah.
You know, Rubio gives his press conference and basically says that we are going to protect these boats and get them out of the Strait of Hormuz. We have a humanitarian mission. And about 3 hours later, President Trump says, we're done with that. All right. So, like, poor Marco Rubio, he signed up for it, right? But basically, we have no clarity about what this policy is. It's back and forth. The Secretary of State gets out there, proclaims something, is flipped by the president. The president says negotiations are good. The Pakistanis told me they are. The Iranians are laughing and saying, maybe we will, maybe we won't. The Saudis apparently told us that what you, President Trump, are trying to do to guide boats through the straits, we won't support. You can't use our bases and our airspace to conduct those operations. Trump says that we're no longer at war, but our ships are out actually taking incoming fire from the Iranians. So explain it.
Joel, can I ask you a question? I want to know, why does it feel like Donald Trump does not have any seasoned, experienced professionals advising him on this? Because what I see is a lot of, like, when I'm watching the news, that's all I know about what's going on. It seems like a lot of wish casting, like, reporters breathlessly saying the president says that we're close to a deal, and they've been saying that. They've literally said that 12 times, because I looked it up yesterday. How many times has Trump said we're close to a deal? And it feels like we're just flying by the seat of our pants. Why is that?
Yeah, there's a very simple reason, which is that the president is doing what no president should be doing, which is taking total control of the entire decision-making process of how we engage on a military action abroad, not consulting our allies, not consulting our Congress, sort of informing them after the fact, and then being surprised when they don't want to play along. And ultimately, Brooklyn, look, this is a failed political strategy driving the policy. the military strategy of dealing with Iran, of going and hitting it in the way that it did. And Pete Hegseth talks about it. Dan Kane, the chairman of Joint Chiefs, he talks about it too. One could argue it's been very effective at meeting its objectives, but that's not the whole point. That's not the whole strategy. And so Trump, he's confused tactics with strategy. What he's doing is saying, I am going to send our military in to do towards Iran something that will end their nuclear program, overturn the regime, and make them like us. But I'm only going to use the military rather than have a comprehensive strategy, political and diplomatic and economic one that I can use in alignment with our allies to really achieve our overall national objectives. He's not. He's picking the tactic. I want to beat them up, send in the troops. And now we're seeing the failure of that, which is that we are really in a bad spot diplomatically. And, the military is not to blame for this.
Yeah, one of the things he keeps talking about is it's clear he expected this to go how it went in Venezuela.
Yes.
Where because he's an incurious, imbecilic idiot.
Where's my
Um,
Delsey? Sorry.
right, right. He doesn't understand the difference between Venezuela and Iran. One of the reasons no other president has done this, and I want to get into a little bit of the Netanyahu piece here, is to your point that, like with Iran, you can't just go in there militarily, right? You have to have this diplomatic approach to it. This is not Venezuela. And Donald Trump decided, no, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it. But two questions that are
Yeah,
in this
that's
vein.
totally
Number
right.
one, there is a lot of chatter about this is Netanyahu's war and he
Mhm.
dragged us into it and he is the decision maker, etc. Also, how much did ripping up the JPCOA, how much did that put us in this position? The deal that Obama brokered, that Donald Trump ripped up and ended. And where was
Yeah.
Iran before that and after that and during that? And what were the consequences of him
Wait a
deciding to walk away?
minute. Who brought the expert questioner in here? This is too much, Joe. I'm not sure what you're putting me on the spot here too
Sorry, I
much.
had
It's
my
it,
CBD
oh
mint, so
God.
I'm smart right now.
Well, for everybody watching, right? Joe and I and Brooklyn, we've been friends for a long time. And Joe and I first started talking about Middle East on podcasts back and forth several years ago.
Yeah.
And so she knows these issues intimately and on a personal level too. And so I thank you, Joe, for letting me talk with your audience and Brooklyn with your audience about this stuff. Look, a couple of thoughts. First of all, the JCPOA, the worst acronym ever, 5 letter acronym, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran deal, let's call it that.
Yeah.
That was an Obama negotiated deal in 2015. I was very involved in that uh, on the activist side, lobbying essentially for diplomacy with Iran. And then when I went into the administration, essentially trying to sell that and promote that to Congress, which was a Republican Congress. And during that time, there was a moment, and you may remember this, where a certain prime minister from Israel decided to show up on the floor of the House and trash the Obama nuclear deal, Prime Minister Netanyahu. I was the chief liaison to the House at that time. And when we got word that Prime Minister Netanyahu was going to come to Washington to attack Obama's nuclear deal, I called up Speaker Boehner's office. That was my primary point of contact in the House. I said, what the hell? Like, why did you not inform us ahead of time? And the staff said, we didn't know.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So, like, this has been an ongoing thing. Now, to Netanyahu's credit, this is not like he's not like coming up with a new idea with Donald Trump. He's been consistently hawkish on Iran. He was 10 years ago, he was 20 years ago. What we had was this sort of back and forth with the American presidents, and Obama took a lot of political grief. And in my book, I kind of try to argue about how we need to make sure we win the politics these issues too, because we lost the politics in many ways of that issue. And he took grief politically, got a deal done, but then a few years later, Trump ended it, and with very minimal political negative repercussion. But by ending that nuclear deal, he basically unwound a tight spool that was negotiated, and whatever analogy you want to say, Humpty Dumpty, you can't put him back together again, right? And that's sort
Mhm.
of why we are where we are right now. But I will also say President Biden tried for 4 years to negotiate with the Iranians and get them back into that nuclear deal, and they're like, no, we don't need to. Like, give us more. And so they're not exactly a great negotiating partner, but this was all highly predictable, right? And that's why it was so hard to get that nuclear deal a decade ago. And that's why it was so cataclysmic to get out of it, because this is like the worst issue on the planet in foreign policy context. There's no simple solution. There's no one shot will fix it all dynamic. There never really is, but certainly not on Iran. And so when we got the nuclear deal, the concept, and I'll close with this, was that this is not fixing everything, but this is the foundation now to fix other issues. But that foundation never really settled, because a year and a half after he got the deal done, Trump came into office and unwound it. And now we are stuck in a situation where he's trying to get that Obama deal back, basically.
Joel, to my very unexperienced.
Wait, on Bibi, can I just add? I'm sorry, one more thing.
Yep.
I do think Bibi lobbied hard for years to have the U.S. military engage and hit Iran. That is no secret. That is not anti-Semitic to say. That is not anti-Israel to say. That is a fact. But I do believe, and I'm very strong in this viewpoint, ultimately it was Donald Trump who made that decision. He owns this and he's in charge of it, and nobody dragged him to war. Netanyahu has been advocating for it for years. That's what he does. That's where his position has been. But Donald Trump really has ownership of this, just like he did for getting out of that deal. And the American people supported him again after he got out of that deal. And the politics of this never punished him for that first retreat. And so I do ultimately put the onus on Donald Trump.
I was going to say, to my very unexperienced foreign policy eyes, it looks to me as though we need a political solution to come out of this, a negotiation, a deal. And I want to know, from your standpoint, what's the likelihood that Trump gets anything close to getting what Obama already had in the JCPOA? And if he is unable to attain that, does America take the L on this Iran war?
We are staring at the Iranians, and both are suffering simultaneously right now with the higher gas prices, and the Iranians, the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz going in both directions. They block third country ships. We're blocking Iranian ships. Both are really getting hammered right now. I actually do think there is a significant incentive for Iran to cut a deal to end this. And I do think that if we have patience, which goes to why I'm so annoyed, frankly, about Sunday or Monday in this presser and Rubio, like we can't have ADD decision making at the top. We actually need to stick with the policy for a little bit, and let's just see if it works. 24 hours is not enough. So I do think, after all, and you've heard my critiques, that this situation does provide an opportunity for us to have a negotiation. And I've been talking to a lot of folks behind the scenes and in the community, where you have a sort of trade-off on nuclear enrichment being capped and pulled back, and the Strait of Hormuz being opened up, and structures put in place in the Gulf for potentially helping to rebuild the damaged sites in the Gulf as well as in Iran. There are ways to do this diplomatically. They need to get a framework agreement, a first step agreement on the terms of reference of ongoing technical negotiations. We did that. Obama did that. There was a small deal called the JPOA, the Joint Plan of Action, before the JCPOA a half a year later. It's okay in diplomacy. So I do think there's still a chance for that. The big question, though, is
I mean, getting back to what Obama had, it was my question.
Yeah, ultimately, that's the great irony. It may be, it will be what Obama had. There may be a couple wrinkles better, but there's also all this downside negative cost that was much worse, right? And so we didn't, when the deal was negotiated, we didn't have the Strait of Hormuz blocked. We didn't have 1,000 people killed. We didn't expend all our munitions. You would hope that by doing all those actions, that there would be a much better outcome than what it looks like we're heading towards. And that's, to me, while it may end up being neutral and back to 2015, in the big picture, it is a loss. And in the big picture, it is also a devastating demonstration of American ineptitude on the global stage. And I think that has broader repercussions for our position vis-a-vis China, where he's going next week, vis-a-vis Europe, who basically is like, we don't want to deal with you people anymore. And that affects all of us, and it will way after Trump departs in 2028.
Yeah, and that's actually one of my questions for you. Also, we've lost 13 soldiers and we have hundreds more that are
Yes.
injured, and we don't have a full accounting of the damage that was done to our bases in the region. They're not being fully transparent about a lot of that. They're not being fully transparent about a lot of things, but it
Mhm.
is this piece because it pivots
Shocker.
well
Yeah.
to your book, right? There is this really massive piece of the shift that we've seen as a result of Donald Trump's regime and this lack of an emphasis on diplomacy and this complete ineptitude when it comes to our standing in the world, our reputation in the world, our relationships that we have built over generations with our allies and partners and our adversaries as well. Donald Trump is an idiot, like we've already established. He's not calculating, he's not strategic, he's not loyal to our allies. He certainly doesn't have a love affair with NATO. We're looking at the world map changing in this regard, and one of the things you're right about, that this skirmish, this excursion, this war that's not a war has exposed, is that the rest of the world doesn't really need to pivot on what the United States is doing as much. They can really kind of rework this whole arrangement. Look at what Mark Carney is saying in Canada, and you're right about China. And
Yeah.
it's so I want to talk about the long-term implications, like you already alluded to, but how we get back, how we build back, and that does sort of pivot to your book as well, which is available now on Amazon, Saving Democratic Foreign Policy. How Democrats can earn the American people's trust to lead the world once again. So this feeds into how Donald Trump's second season of this shit show has shifted the global balance and where it's put the United States of America in a very short period of time, and then how the Democrats can right that ship, how it seems insurmountable, but you talk about in your book why that's not.
Yeah, Joe, look, I'm not a nostalgic for the status quo ante, right? Like, I'm not the guy who's going to get up here and say, if we had only just done what we were doing during Biden, everything would be fine, right? That's not true, right? And as a Democrat, I think we have to be very clear that the American people deserve a foreign policy that really reflects our country, one that's rooted in patriotism, one that's pragmatic, one that's populist, one that really does reflect the greatest of our country. We want to be a force for good around the world. And so I think we kind of dropped the ball as well as Democrats. And I'll get to the Trump point. But like, even with the Obama deal, which I advocate for, I thought was a good deal, we didn't win the politics of that deal. We didn't get the broad middle. We didn't somehow we didn't capture the country's imagination about the possibilities of diplomacy, and it became brittle and was easily overturned. Flip side here, look, Americans were livid with the war in Gaza, and upset about it. And I have a lot of different personal views about it. It's a very complicated thing for a variety of reasons with a lot of different Americans. But at the end of the day, we were in the White House, right? And the president was in Biden was in the White House, and we saw our politics just completely melt down over that. And lose our policy basically led to a position where there was nothing. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but we can't look to a good out. The hostages were still in when he left, and it was a real failure of a policy. In Afghanistan, we lost the politics too, and we withdrew, even though that was what the American people wanted us to do. Right. So I'm advocating for resetting, not on status quo ante of policy, but on the idea that we are really trying to have an American foreign policy that speaks to the broad consensus of the American people, where Americans want to be proud of what we look like around the world, and be effective about it. And so I go into some of the lay it out. My greatest experience professionally was as a Peace Corps volunteer after college, and experiencing what it means to be an American in the field, working hand in glove with people in the developing world as an American, and being able to demonstrate our ability to do good around the world, and building relationships that strengthen our country, and the countries that we touch. And I loved it. And we need to get that mindset back. And so, for me, with the book, the idea is that we have to look at the United States as an entity that should be doing things well around the world. And right now, we're so off kilter that all of the allies that we spent 7 or 8 decades building up are running away from us, petrified of us. Our NATO allies petrified of us. I gave a talk yesterday, some leading Europeans about foreign policy, and I found myself begging them to please remember that the broader United States of America, it wants to be friends with them and stick with us and make the arguments to us about why it's in our interest as well to be friends with and work with Europe. It's good for our economy. It's good for our security. It's good for our values. But as Democrats, I think, and I'll close with this, I think that we have a dual task. One, we have to show people that we really know what we're doing on the policy. And two, we have to show people that we care about the broad swath of the United States. And Donald Trump is giving us a huge opportunity to do that. And so we as Democrats need to take advantage of that and not spin into just extremism or spin into a very narrow articulation of America's role in the world. Really take advantage of the window of opportunity in front of us to repivot how we engage the world. And as Democrats, I think they're the only ones that can do that.
Joel, speaking of about America's role in the world, it kind of feels like Donald Trump has positioned us as like the bad guys on the planet. I don't know. I
Yeah,
used to
that's
think
right.
like America was like we were like the good guys. People used to refer to us as the global police or whatever. And some people, some Americans, rightly or not, would disagree with that characterization. They say we shouldn't be the world's police. That's neither here nor there. But my question is,
Yeah.
Trump and Rubio and the whole regime has made it clear that Cuba is in their sights. And earlier today, I heard that Representative Jayapal was attempting to work with ambassadors or whatever there to try to head off what is developing into a humanitarian crisis because Cuba has been without oil, and without oil, their
Right.
hospitals are going to suffer, and real people, civilians, will suffer in a similar way as if you were to strike civilian structures like power plants and stuff like that. So I guess my question is, does her involvement in talks with them, does that kind of throw off the pressure that the Trump regime is trying to apply to Cuba with their, embargo?
I mean, it highlights it, but ultimately, and this is one of the things that the American voter needs to continually remember, and we're seeing now with Trump personalizing it in a way on the Iran war where he has total control. The commander in chief is uniquely powerful on issues of global affairs. So you can have a congressperson step up, make noise, shine a bright light on an issue, but that's essentially an uphill battle for them, right? Like, and this is another core point of the book, and it's nothing new to you all. You're political animals. We have to win elections, right? Like, we must win elections to be able to have power to make decisions. So Jayapal and the Progressive Caucus currently are part of the minority in the lower chamber. So all they can do is what she's doing, which is laudable, but it's not changing the policy unless she can organize the politics so that the American people's views of the policy influence the president in a direction where she wants it to go. And that's the critical linkage, this intersection of politics and foreign policy. This is what we have to always be thinking about. And I'm not talking about politics for pandering purposes. I'm talking about politics for shaping the way the American people view an issue and have that lean in to the decision making by the executive. And because ultimately the executive, the president, is truly this like free range chicken in American policy on international, and they can do a hell of a lot whenever they want. But I do want to add one thing. I do think we can still be a force for good. Call me quaint or naive or a
Old
little
fashioned.
old fashioned. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, but like what we're seeing with the this administration is dismantling of the arms of good. So like they eliminated USAID, which if you didn't know what USAID was before it was dismantled, I'm sure you know about it now. It saved millions of lives around the world through
Yeah.
humanitarian aid. I was talking to a friend at the Gates Foundation the other day who basically told me he's a senior person, worked with him for many years, that all of their grantees in the field had commingled money, Gates, US government, USAID, et cetera. And so when USAID left, they're like, we have no more money. Can Gates cover it? No, Gates can't cover it. They don't have that kind of resources and they're huge. So it's a nightmare in the developing world. So not only is that inhumane, it also took away a tool of influence, a tool of leadership, a
Mhm.
tool of power. I was in Africa not so long ago. I'll tell you, the Chinese and the Russians are in Africa, and they are
Mhm.
making relations. And
Yeah.
those countries have people, they have smarts, they also happen to have resources and geostrategic locations. We need that. So we need to be a force for good, not just because we want to be nice and have a good, long, healthy life and all, but we also need it for our own self-interest. And um, and that enlightened self-interest, I think, I got to say one more thing, was most understood by President John F. Kennedy, who I talk about a lot in this book, because he was the guy who created the Peace Corps. He was the guy who created
Mm.
USAID. He was also tough as nails and didn't take it from the Soviets, right? So you can do
Yeah.
both. You can be tough and patriotic and humanitarian and visionary. And we can do all that. And we should, as Democrats, that's the kind of positioning we should be looking for.
Well, that
Well
is
said.
the perfect place to leave this conversation for now. We will get into. I hope to have you back because there's a lot more to talk about,
Thanks, Joe.
including Ukraine, which we didn't talk about. But you're right. I'm also not abandoning the idea that we can do good work in this country and impact people around the world in a positive way. That has to start with elections, and that has to start with getting these Republicans who should be listening to the American people right now, who are saying that this war is unpopular, who do support helping Ukraine, and we're not listening because Donald Trump doesn't care, because he doesn't care about the pressure on people in Congress. He doesn't care about the ones up for re-election like Mike Lawler and shit like that. He doesn't care. He's very selfish in that regard. But we're going to have more of these conversations. Let's put the book back up there, because congratulations on it. It is
Thanks, Joe.
available on Amazon right
Congrats, Joe.
now,
Yeah.
right? You said.
Thanks, Brooklyn.
Yeah, Saving Democratic Foreign Policy: How Democrats Can Earn the American People's Trust to Lead the World Once Again. Thank you so much, Joel.
It was so much fun and an honor to be with you guys. I really appreciate it.
And we'll talk soon. It's so great to get his perspective. He just has a way of explaining it. It's like a Cliff's Notes for foreign policy.
Makes it very accessible. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people, and I get it, like me too, in many ways, a lot of people are intimidated by foreign policy, and a lot of people think that foreign policy doesn't really impact me. But it does. It all
Yeah.
does. It all ties back together. But like, it's very scary to think about how long it might take to rebuild these relationships and this soft power. And also, I was listening today to the impacts on, just the HIV communities around the world, and what us dismantling USAID has done to all of that, to other diseases, and all of that's going to come knocking on our doors here. It's not a matter of if, it's when. So it's an
The-
imperative that we get the House back at the very least, if not the Senate, and then we need to reclaim the presidency as soon as fucking possible.
There's a lot of short-sighted people out there who were celebrating and say woohoo when Doge dismantled USA, and it's like, you dumbasses, you don't even know. Like, okay, yeah, so maybe they chopped out $10 million worth of fraud, but they basically they threw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
It was doing way more good than this phantom fraud you guys were looking after. Meanwhile, Donald Trump pardoned more people for fraud,
Right.
and pardoned. And so when he pardoned them, they didn't have to pay restitution
No.
for the fraud that they caused.
Right.
So
Right.
you care about it, or you you just care about scoring political points? Because
Well,
right now there's people around the world that used to get help by us, And
Yeah.
now they're being helped by Russia and China. And the fact that that happened, that hurts us, you dumbasses.
It all does, and it's also, by the way, we learned today the irony of ironies, shocker, that this waste, fraud, and abuse bullshit, that just getting rid of USAID, they're asking for $20 billion to get rid of it, to
What?
dismantle it. Yeah, this is a story that broke today. I was listening on my ride to the DMV to get new
I can't keep up.
registration. It's actually going to cost us. This is congressionally appointed, allocated money, by the way. 20 billion to dismantle USAID. Yeah.
Why?
Because of legal fees, et cetera, et cetera. They broke it down. Yeah, just dismantling contracts, paying back contractors $20 billion. It's a disaster. This whole thing is a Russian nesting doll of disasters, and
Mhm.
it breaks my heart because Donald Trump, once again, he really embodies that which does not speak to our better angels, and we have done horrible things in our history, both here on our own soil and abroad. We have committed atrocities, but largely I think that we've endeavored to be the world's good guys. We have done good things, and in many
Yeah.
cases we have aspired to do good things. We haven't
Mhm.
always achieved that end, but now it's just the opposite. So it breaks my heart, but yeah, it's something we got to keep an eye on, and also something that should motivate people. I know that the stuff that is happening here at home every day is the stuff that matters most, obviously, and I get
Well,
that too.
well, let's keep an eye on that ever expanding price tag for that ballroom that was originally supposed to only cost 200 million of private funds,
Yeah.
and then 300 million, and then 400 million, and now
Mm,
now they want a billion dollars, and
mhm.
not
Of
private
our money.
funds. They want taxpayer funds. So let's can we cover that for a minute? Because I mean,
Mhm.
this was the thing that he insisted over and over and over. It's private funds. And I knew from Jump Street that he was full of shit.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, here it is. Republicans in Congress want they want to fund 1 billion taxpayer dollars
Mhm.
for that thing. Why do you need $1 billion for it?
Oh, but he wants the 6-inch glass, and he wants it to be protected from drones and from it's going to be the most secure, and they are using what happened, and I'm doing this now air quote thing, what happened at
Oh,
the White House Correspondents' Dinner. They immediately reassembled all together, by the way, chain like the chain of succession just like went back to the same place together. The whole thing is nuts. To
yeah.
talk about why what happened on that Saturday makes the case for why he needs a secure ballroom. But the American people aren't buying this shit. The American people are not buying this shit. They First of all, gas right now is criminally expensive.
456 national average.
National average.
$4.56. Yeah.
And they're telling us that that's a small price to pay. They're telling us that it's temporary pain, temporary suffering. We know what that means to us. That impacts everything that you do, no matter how much
Mhm.
time you spend in a car. But also, we know it is impacting prices. Potatoes are hitting an all-time freaking high.
Yeah.
Everything is more expensive. Nobody
Fertilizer.
wants a fucking billion-dollar ballroom. And by the way, where's all that money that was donated? Where's all that
Mhm.
private donor money that was anonymous? And
Mhm.
they made sure to make it anonymous. Sam's got a clip. Let's put that up.
Already pushing back on that and said, no, 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 this bill authorizes us to build the whole thing, the whole ballroom, that monstrous ballroom that dwarfs the White House, the rest of the White House. I am personally not surprised that Donald Trump, who said, you're not going to spend any money for this, in fact, wants to spend a whole bunch of taxpayer money on this ballroom, and is getting it from the Republican Senate. And of course, the Republican House will follow suit.
That is a luxury item. That is what it is. And this is a government. This is a government that is telling us that, oh, we can't afford to spend on healthcare. We can't afford to spend on childcare. But you want to spend $1 billion on a luxury item to make Spanky McDumbass feel cozy and secure, so that he can grift in comfort, in relative secrecy and comfort. I don't think so. It's the equivalent of if I said, look, we can't afford to we can't afford to go to Disney this year. We're gonna have to hunker down, and we're gonna have to cut expenses and tighten our wallets and all that. And then you go out and you purchase a Bentley without without
Right.
checking with me, or like, what's that? That's insanity. That's insane. And he just feels like he has like that because Republicans are not stopping him at all.
No, and it speaks to his priorities and their priorities. And it's not ever when they say we don't have the money. We don't have the money to feed, starving children. We don't have the money for SNAP benefits. We don't have the money for childcare, like you said. We don't have the money for ACA healthcare extensions. We don't have the money to invest in our public schools. We don't. They constantly tell us what we don't have the money for, and that's not true. Because if we have $1 billion laying around to use in a ballroom that none of us is ever going to get to dine in or dance in. If we're lucky, we'll get to scrub the floors for some other billionaire's, bullshit fundraiser for a new bidet. Like this speaks to their priorities, and their priorities are not the American people. They are certainly not Ma and Pa MAGA, who are disproportionately impacted by a lot of these policies, by the tariffs that he has instituted. And again, this is not something that benefits the American people. So to tell us that you don't have the money for programs that help us, while building yourself a ballroom that no one asked for, after tearing down a third of the White House you didn't have the permission for. Nobody is this stupid. But the thing is, one of the things that Joel said that keeps ringing in my ears when I think about, this electoral pressure that we can rely upon. Donald Trump is immune from that for many reasons. First of all, he's a sociopath and a sadist, and he doesn't fucking care. He's a narcissist. He literally doesn't care about human suffering. He's also a lame duck. He's also, presumably, he's never running on a ballot in any race ever again, whether or not that means he leaves.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he plans on leaving. I don't think he plans on being up for re-election. I think he plans on installing himself. And I think he
hence the bunker under that ballroom that he's so desperate to have erected.
Right. This is another reason he's not capable of his own erections. So that's why it's just around himself. But anyway, I digress. But the Republican Party, the thing is what they should care about, because in particular in the House, those motherfuckers are on a ballot every 2 years. And the American people have made it pretty abundantly clear that they are not happy with what Republicans are doing. Every time it's come up for a vote, Republicans have lost. So they should stop being so feckless, because they're the ones paying the price.
Did you see smirky Kevin Hassett the other day? He was bragging. He was actually bragging that Americans are using more credit cards to buy gasoline. Dude, that is not a flex. That means that Americans are so overwhelmed by the prices of things. We're just hanging on we're just getting by however we possibly can. And the fact that people are going into debt to buy things like gas and groceries, that's a warning sign of a very sick economy. Sam, do you have that clip, right?
I had the head of one of the big 5 banks in my office yesterday going through the credit card data. And just as Secretary Bessent said, credit card spending is through the roof. They're spending more on gasoline, but they're spending more on everything else, too. And so in terms of the jobs picture for the rest of the year, it's really hard to see having the unemployment rate go up, for example. It's probably going to drop a little.
But Democrats, please run that as a clip. Please run that as an ad. Please run that clip as an ad. Everything is they're paying more for everything and their credit card debt is increasing. Like these
Through
are
the
good
roof, he
things.
said.
Yes. And again, if I hear one more billionaire telling me about how temporary suffering that
Yeah.
nobody ran on. They ran on the price of eggs. They
Mhm.
ran on lowering gas. They ran on inflation. Every single one of those numbers is moving in the wrong direction. We've had gas prices higher than they have been in 4 years. Inflation is moving in the wrong direction. Unemployment is moving in the wrong direction. The GDP is moving in the wrong direction. Our country now owes more than it brings in. Our country is
Yeah.
screwed. And a bunch of billionaires who don't have to worry about driving cars or buying groceries. They don't even understand what that means. They're calling affordability a hoax. They're telling the rest of us that this is just temporary pain, and then they're making up a whole bunch of bullshit reasons about Iran, et cetera, for why. And it's deeply concerning because this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, all of these things, they're ripples right now that are going to cause a tsunami that is going to devastate this country. It is already devastating our farmers. I am deeply concerned about our farmers. They're losing their shirts. They're losing their farms. They're losing
Yeah.
everything. They're taking their own lives. We're going to have a food shortage in this country. Things are bad now.
Brooke Rollins, the agriculture secretary, is saying that farmers are entering the golden age. What the hell does that mean?
She said probably. It was doing a metric fuck ton of work there. Yeah, they're probably going to see. It's just and Sam, our producer behind the scenes, has only a few minutes to left for us for today.
Again.
So like I want to wrap, but it is heartbreaking to see how much damage this one person can do in such a short period of time. The guardrails are just gone. Like
Mhm.
they are the east wing of the White House. They have been torn down to the studs, and he is just run amok. And it is really heartbreaking, but it is not impossible. I will die on that hill to right this ship, and the only way we can do that is to show up like they did in Hungary and say, "Fuck this, I'm not doing that."
My goal between now and November is to remind voters, to remind Americans that the Republicans do not care about you.
No.
They care about assuaging the ego of the Orange Emperor. And the only way to fix that is to send them a message to kick them all the hell out of office, because they don't, they're making excuses for this war. They're making excuses for your suffering. They're making excuses. They're trying to say that it's patriotic to spend more at the pump. Where I just saw a supercut that MS Now posted, where it showed Republicans complaining about gas prices under Biden at $3.82 a gallon, versus now at $4.56, and the difference is night and day. $3.82, they're like, this is insane. This is inexcusable. And $4.56, they're like, well, what can you do? This is our responsibility. We have to do
Yeah. When they're not blaming Joe Biden, which is my other favorite thing. Yeah. But Biden, we're 470 days into this fucking thing, and you're going to be blaming Joe Biden. Give me a break. Yeah. But Sam, just let me know in our text messages, actually, how much time you literally have. Because one of these Biden things that I want to pivot to really fast before we go is paging Jake Tapper. Like, he has to go. Just Sam, put up Donald Trump's hands. Just put up one picture of Donald Trump's hands.
Oof.
And that's just one. We saw a picture yesterday. They are both now spackled. They are both now swollen. They are both
and bruised.
Black. Yeah. But Joe Biden wasn't fit. But the greatest cover-up in the history of the presidency was Joe Biden's physical condition, his mental state. Look at that. He looks like he's been making out with a toothless vampire. Okay.
That's nasty.
Well, anyway, we do. Sam's got to go. So, Brooklyn, any last closing thoughts for the moment?
Yeah, folks, stay positive. Don't let yourself don't let yourself get overwhelmed by this stuff. If you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, turn your phone off, turn off the TV, go outside, get some fresh air, take a walk or whatever. You alone cannot change things, but we together, united, we can make a difference.
That's the absolute truth. If we all do a little, no one has to do it all. And the only way out is through, and the only way through is together. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We love your comments. We love to see you here. We'll be back on a normal schedule of like 4:30 coming up at the end of baseball and softball season on my end. So I apologize for the inconvenience.
And go Knicks!
And let's go Knicks 2-0. Okay, let's go Knicks. Yeah, I love the Knicks. Okay, well, thanks, Brooklyn. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everybody in the chat. We will see you next Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Bye.